Hello, my name is Phil Owens, and I'm the Vice President of Customer Solutions at Stamus Networks, the creators of ClearNDR and ClearNDR Community Edition. You may have heard me in some other videos if you've listened to our YouTube channel, where I've done some demonstrations on integrating large language models with ClearNDR version 40 and above. We have created a model context protocol server that allows you to do those integrations and pull real-time data. In those previous videos, it was more of an interactive session where I would prompt for different pieces of information. And what I wanted to do today is show a demonstration of something a little bit different. You may have heard of prompt engineering as it coming into play with regards to um, LLMs and AI. And that's what I've done here. So what you should be able to see on your screen, I'm using a open source client called Agent Zero. You can download this. I run it in a Docker desktop Docker image, and I can connect this to um, any number of uh, Google, ChatGPT. I could even connect it to local models using OpenAI, an OpenAI compatible model, or connect it to Olama. So that's also available. Today I'm using Google's Gemini Pro, Gemini 3 Pro, so that you can see how this will work. The other thing that I wanted to point out, and I think I've shown this in previous videos as well, is that we have these tools that are associated with ClearNDR. So we can get alert lists with start and end dates. All of these are the properties that can come back to the LLM to be utilized uh, for giving you data back in real time from the ClearNDR product. So we have family info, get IP details. The reason that I wanted to show you this, and you can get this from the MCP server itself just by asking it. The reason that I wanted to show you this is that I actually specifically in my prompt engineering are looking at or telling the LLM to call some of these particular tools within the MCP server itself. So now let's get to the nitty gritty of how this thing works. It is a prompt, a single prompt, as you can see, with a lot of directions in it. This was engineered by myself, along with some help from Gemini. I'm not going to lie, as I was working through this. So we can walk through this prompt real quickly, and you can see uh, we're doing a standard operating procedure. So we're going to initialize and follow each of these steps, or ask the LLM to follow each of these steps. The interesting pieces that I think that really come into play is I'm having it search our blogs and our documentation to find threat hunting strategies because we've written a lot of them, especially my colleague Peter and Eric and Clement. They've all put some time and effort into creating documentation. So I'm asking the LLM to go find some of this information and then utilize it, read that information and utilize it to help it do threat hunting. Uh, Kind of creating an autonomous, if you will, tier 3 threat hunter on the platform, network threat hunter, right? You'll also notice that I've asked it to search the internet for today's active exploits, right? And go through and read those and utilize that information to see if we are impacted by those exploits. Um, in my case, I do want to point out I'm running in a multi-tenant environment. Most of you will not be. I will say that not many of our customers use our tenant capability. This is something specifically for some of our MSSP customers, but most of our regular customers will just use the tool. So this would not be necessary. We're also looking for it to use the threat list. So this goes to where I actually call and tell it, use these tools from ClearNDR to find information, right? Use our alert outliers, which is an alert list with the outliers equal to true, and use our alert list. So uh, you may think that's really cheating, but in the end, I know that these exist, so I want to make sure I'm utilizing every piece of data that I can in order to be able to get a good report on what's happening. So after we get through all of this, what we tell it is do an active investigation, do a triage on what's going on, right? Do not investigate every single alert, right? That would be way too inefficient. There would be hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands of alerts over a 24-hour period, maybe even more than that that it would have to go through. So just pick the top 5 most suspicious assets, right? Or IP addresses, whether they're offenders or victims, with the highest alert counts, and then run the get IP details for each of those to get more information about them to understand how I might go about remediating if there's problems found within this investigation. Right. One other thing that I find kind of funny is I do have to spell out to it. Don't do a recommended action of investigate. Right. I'm telling the LLM it is the investigator. So do it. Don't tell me to go investigate. I want the LLM to do the investigation. So that's what I'm telling it here. I actually reinforce this down at the bottom, and I'll show you that as well. You'll also see that I'm asking for a report at the end, right? So I'm putting it in Markdown. Conceivably, this could be anything that you want it in, whether that's a PDF or Markdown or whatever support that you're looking for. I tell it to include tables containing data that was found and all the enrichment details that it has available to it. And if there were exploits found in the web search from the standard operating procedures above, number 4, let me know if they were found in my environment. Make sure to include recommended next steps at the end of the report, and make your recommendations fit the type of asset and the actions that it will be against. Meaning, you're not going to want to isolate all your domain controllers at once. You're going to want to, if you have domain controllers that are impacted, you're going to want those domain controllers, make sure that those domain controllers can handle the load. If you turn one of them off and leave one running while you remediate one and then bring it back up and swap them out, you're not going to want to just isolate all your domain controllers because, well, that would bring your network down, and that's not any fun. And then follow the last piece here is really just um, only report on return data, right? Data that's returned by the tools. This is me telling the LLM explicitly, do not hallucinate. Only use the data that comes back from the tools from ClearNDR. And then with the execution, this is that where I mentioned that I reinforce this. Do not suggest next steps that you as the LLM could have done yourself, right? So really, I want you, the LLM, in this case Gemini, I want it to actually do the investigation and find all the answers and then give me a report at the end. So this is something that you could task to run. Say every day at 6 a.m. So when you come in for your morning coffee and you sit at your desk, you could have a report in front of you to be able to see what's going on. That last one that you see there at the bottom, this Agent Zero thing, tool has something called memories, and I really don't like it using its memories when it's doing things. Sometimes it will um, remember something from a few days or weeks ago and then add that, and I don't want it to do that. So that's what I'm telling it. Just don't use any memories, right? So I press enter once this happens, and I'm not doing this live because it does take a you know anywhere from 30 seconds to 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how deep it's going and what it's doing. So I will tell you, it is an LLM. Just like with any other LLM, you can ask it the same question over and over again and get different answers every time. So just keep that in mind. That's kind of how they work. But just to get an idea, you can see that it's initializing the standard operating procedures. It's searching for methodologies and active exploits. We can see it continue to go down this path of document query, right? Reading some of the methodologies. So here I can see I searched Stamus blog and searched the docs and looking for threat hunting strategies or methodologies and found things, right? So the next thing that I told it to do was, well, if you find them, go ahead and read them and understand them. So it does that next, right? It goes through and starts to read some of these and puts them into chunks, indexes them so that they're available as part of the context window. As we continue to roll down here, you can see I'm searching for active exploits. So it's running the search engine again, and you can see it actually makes calls to CISA. Um, you can see CVE.org, all of these different locations that it's actually reached out in its web search, and it will also pull that information in and chunk that stuff together to put into the context window as well. So as you might imagine, this thing will generate a lot of context as it's moving forward, and a lot of tokens as it runs through here. Uh, then you can actually start seeing it make calls to the ClearNDR threat list, to the alert list. So I'm checking for outliers where my outliers is true, and then where they're false. Going through and doing triage steps. I'm not going to open all of these. It's just a bunch of JSON underneath, but this gives you an idea of it thinking and working through everything that I've asked it to do with that one prompt. And now it's picked the top 5 assets and starts getting the data on those top 5 assets that it found threats or problems with. And I do want to point out this is demo data. If I would have done this on a really clean network, it might be, a report that you get in the morning, which you're going to want to get in the morning while you're having your coffee. Nothing to do. I didn't find anything. Everything's great. But I want you to see what it might look like if there are some issues on the network. So as we keep scrolling through here, I can see I'm doing my list, and then I get to the point where I'm actually responding. So here's a threat hunting report, critical security incidents detected. I get a quick executive summary, right? A comprehensive threat on that tenant, threat hunt on that tenant. Found critical security breaches, multiple assets, and it lets me know the investigation identified Cobalt Strike beaconing, some Nemocod ransomware delivery, and unauthorized PowerShell execution, targeting domain controllers and critical infrastructures. So as we keep scrolling down, you can see some of the critical threats that were detected. You got Cobalt Strike in the ransomware, so the pen test tools. We can see DETM, a Trojan, some lateral movement policy bypass, as well as homoglyph for phishing, potential phishing that was seen on the network. From there, I can actually, look at the details around um, the top five suspicious assets. And here I can see the status is compromised. I love the little icon that Gemini gave me. This one's compromised. It gives me a little bit of information about it, what threats it found on that particular asset, as well as the IP address, the server name, or I should say host name. In this case, it's not a server. I can also see DC2 was target, and an offender in certain instances where this base 64 encoded stager, uh, it showed that it was pivoting. It was the offender in this case. As we keep scrolling down, I have another domain controller, DC5. I'm not gonna read through all of the different pieces of information, but you can see these top 5 assets are what I really want to focus in on and start remediating. So I have network-wide impact, lateral movement campaign. Um, it's targeting this entire subnet, so I can see that with over 20 assets included in this lateral movement bypass execution, right? And then uh, some specific exploits that it found. Remember, I asked it if you found some exploits. They weren't explicitly tagged, so it did find this 2026 CVE. I'm going to have to look it up. It didn't tell me what it was. Sometimes it will actually tell me what the CVE is, and then I can. What it is telling me, however, is that I still have things that I need to handle, right? Um, so while this specific CVE wasn't tagged, there is behavior on the network we need to take care of. So it gives me my recommended next step. And if you remember, I told it to do things based on the type of device that it is. So immediate containment on that Gilder 18 box, right? Because it was probably patient zero, if you will. There's an isolation on a couple of other machines, right, to prevent further credential theft and payload execution on them. And then do not, right, isolate the domain controllers entirely, as this will crash your network. So it's letting me know don't do that. But these are some steps that you might want to take really quickly to to contain as you're working to remediate the issues with these domain controllers. So as you can see, I have a full report that has come in to me. Like I said, if I ran this at 6 a.m. in the morning, I could come in for my daily coffee and have it there for me to look through. And hopefully, your coffee does not have all of this stuff in it. So I'm hoping that that's the case for you. Just to give you an idea, I call this, like I said, and I believe this is what the industry term calls it, prompt engineering. And we can deliver this prompt as a customer. We're more than happy to give you access to the prompt that I've put together, but you can also take it, edit it, make it for you. Really, just instead of looking at this as a chat environment where you're interactive, going back and forth, which you absolutely can do, and you can look at some of my other videos. We'll link at least one of them on the page with this video, so that you'll be able to see how I'm trying to get to patient zero in this same attack, just by using back and forth communications and talking with the MCP and the LLM. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you sitting through my demo here, and hopefully it shows you some of the capabilities that are available within the Stamus Networks ClearNDR with its MCP server and with an LLM to make hunting within the environment much easier. So thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day, night, weekend, whatever that may be.